On today's adventure, we're exploring another shallow river system here in South Mississippi in hopes of finding a water moccasin.
But Zach, you filmed like 100 moccasins already.
Well, with these results, I'm willing to make it 101. We're searching for what I refer to as an upland moccasin, a regional variant of water moccasin that's been seen here quite often. So it's into the kayak and downstream we go, and hopefully we can find one of these incredible river vipers. These creeks cut through many different habitats, which means virtually any animal can be seen coming to the water's edge, including other pit vipers that live here. 2 of the rattlesnake species in the state have been seen in the surrounding areas. And of course, moccasin's close relative, the copperhead, can also be found here.
There we go. That's a little copperhead. Come here, you. Look at him. He's almost striped. Have a look at that snake. That's a relative of the animal that we're looking for. That's a copperhead. You know, he's holding his body. He's really fat too. Now this species is going to look very similar swimming to a lot of the other water snakes out here. One major difference you can kind of tell is these vipers, specifically copperheads and cottonmouths, will like to sit on top of the water when they swim. It's kind of like half their body floats above the water. It doesn't mean they're not going to dive, but they're less prone to diving than the local water snake species. Look at that little guy. He's sitting pretty well. They normally balance on a hook or something else, some kind of item, very well after swimming because they're just trying to get onto something. So once you got him up, I mean, he's just kind of posing his head up there. That's really cool. And what I was talking about there, where he's like almost striped, look at how broken his patterns are. Very broken patterns on the first half of this snake's body. He's trying to be striped. And we're not sure what causes those breaks in patterning, whether it's just mutation, color morph, just kind of random. We're not really sure. Now this is actually a pretty small one. You can see here, he doesn't have that yellow tail anymore. So this would be considered an adult copperhead, but he would be very small. As far as vipers go, these are a very mild species. Very few deaths from copperheads, but there have been deaths from copperheads. A lot of people will go out of their way and say, oh, nobody's ever died from a copperhead. That's just not true. People have died from these snakes bites, most of the time because they refuse to go and get treatment. And that's why I tell people, this is a venomous snake. Just because it's the most mild of the venomous snakes does not mean that you should not get anti-venom and that you should not get basic first aid for this animal. It's got a really nice pinkish tinge too. This is an incredibly variable snake, and I've found that they're actually very well behaved. They're not going to have the exact same attitude as a cottonmouth, even though they're very similar. These snakes are a lot more chill. This is an animal that I'm fairly used to dealing with in many different areas, and they're a really cool guy. The only reason I mess with them like this is to show you, wow, that's a really cool little snake to be seen on this river. We're going to go ahead and get him back onto his little riverbank there where he was going, and we're going to keep looking for a cottonmouth. But that is a very cool little viper to be seeing out here. That is a little southern copperhead. Alright, I'm going to assume that he's going to go right up and over there. So, see you, little bud, you are not our target snake. Woo!
Typically, people think of western moccasins as big, dark snakes, but that isn't always the case. The moccasins in this area keep their colorations well into adulthood, so color is definitely not the trait to go off of for identification. Mostly in places like this, you're going to be seeing water snakes, or as some might call this, a coppermouth. This isn't a joke, that happened like 5 minutes ago. However, both water snakes and water moccasins are quite common here, and it didn't take me too long to find one. This little guy here has a ton of pattern. Just got to get him with the snake hook and he's gone. He's gone in the water. Well, hopefully we get to see a few more today, and it's raining.
Well guys, we're definitely getting fully rained out now, and since we've got the main camera with us, gonna have to go ahead and pack it away for the day. But I did not find our target of an upland moccasin. Hopefully we can see one the next time that we're out here. But that's it, we're calling it for today. Missed one turtle and caught a copperhead. So definitely not nothing, especially for this weather, but we're just gonna have to give it another day because today did not work out. So, all right, back upriver.
The next day, we started out early, hoping to see one basking. And sure enough, we lucked out and found our snake almost immediately.
Check this little guy out. That's exactly what we needed. Woo. Nice fast dive. That's a little river moccasin. You get a balance for me, bud? You can see here, this is kind of a smaller adult moccasin, but he's still got some good patterning to him. They oftentimes keep their patterns in this river a lot more than in other areas. And we're going to assume that that's just because of a cleaner habitat, but in general, in these areas, in this location, they're going to be a bit prettier. He's not being well behaved like that copperhead. Now this is a snake that will get much bigger than this. This is actually a fairly small adult, but I would consider this to be an adult. They also grow a lot slower in this river system. I would just guess a little bit harder to get food around here. As you can see, this is a very aquatic snake. They spend a lot of time, pretty much all their time, hunting along waterways, living in waterways. They're mostly going to be eating frogs and fish. That's most of this snake's diet, but they will pretty well be generalists. They'll eat other snakes, they'll eat rodents, really anything that they can kind of get, whatever they have access to. And that's why this snake has such a wide range. That's why they're such a successful snake, is because they can live in pretty well any habitat. But in this habitat, let's not do that. He wasn't trying to bite me, but he did move towards me. That's oftentimes the situation when people say, oh, a moccasin chased me. You can see right there, he's really just trying to get away from me. Like, he's diving, which is not something that moccasins typically like to do. So that little jut towards me right there, that's not him chasing. That's not him being mean. Even though these snakes do not have the best of dispositions, they're not going to chase people. They just don't do it. If you send me a clip of it, legitimately, I'll delete the video. I will. It just does not happen. I've handled probably close to 1,000 of these at this point. I've seen tons and tons of moccasins. I'm very familiar with their behavior. They're incredibly defensive. You do not want to tail them. You do not want to grab them. You just want to sit here and, be able to view them from a good distance with a proper tool, which is what I'm using here, little snake hook. This is the best way to deal with this animal. This is not a snake you want to try to kill. Most people will get bit trying to kill this snake. I have to reiterate that. Most people think that they are making the situation better by trying to kill the animal. Statistically speaking, most people get bit by this snake trying to kill it, or when it is dead. They will pick up the dead snake, or they will pick up the head of the decapitated snake, and it will still end up being able to bite them. So, best just to leave these animals alone when you see them. As you can see right here, he's not going to lunge at me, he's not going to kill me from here. Pretty basic stuff. It's just going to act like any other animal and try to get away from me. Now, the thing that I'm really interested about these moccasins in this river in particular is how gorgeous they can look. This one's actually a bump darker here. For an adult moccasin, he's still got a good bit of pattern on him. And that's what I like to see. I've seen full-grown adults with full patterning. And that's a really cool thing. It's one of my favorite looks that these animals can have. Now, this is a western cottonmouth, western moccasin. However, rivers, streams, places like that, they're going to keep a lot more of their baby colors into adulthood. Don't bite the hook, bud. And you'll see right there, he did try to bite underwater. That is something that they will do. It's nothing crazy. These snakes will just bite underwater. They hunt underwater, they bite. So if you see one underwater, don't believe the myth that, hey, it's underwater. They will not bite. They are very capable of delivering a bite underwater. Just don't mess with it. See how he's sitting right here. This is how you're typically going to find a moccasin. Coiled up in a shade spot, hanging over on a bank. This is how you see him. And you know what you got to do to not get bit? This.